Hey, this is Marilyn Gigliotti.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran.
Hey, everybody. My name is Scott Schiaffo, actor best known as the Chulies Gum Guy from the film Clerks.
And welcome to Clerks Minute.
You're listening to Clerks Minute.
And I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Welcome back to Clerks Minute, the show where we look back 1994 Kevin Smith Classic, one annoying trainer minute at a time. I'm Blake. Kyle is off today, but I have a special guest on the line from the very popular TV show Cake Boss, Ralph Attanasia. Ralph, how you doing?
Hey, how are you doing, Blake?
I am doing great. I think you might just be one of our more famous guests we've had on, which is not a bad thing.
I'm scraping the very bottom of fame, so you're not shooting that high.
Hey, you know what? We have actually on this week people that got their. By the way, if you follow our Instagram page, you know this already. On your next episode after you, we have a star from this minute on our show.
Oh, shut up! Who is it? The trainer? The
Ernie
lady?
O'Donnell. Ernie O'Donnell, the trainer, will be on this show on our next episode. So
oh, nice.
That is on Friday. Today, we are starting here on minute number 58, and we end our conversation that we had guests galore on the last 2 minutes when we were talking about our Randal spitting in our customer's face. Title dictates behavior. So before we even get into the minute, where do you stand on the subject that title dictates behavior, Ralph?
I have to. I don't think that title should dictate behavior. I feel like man, this is a thing that I get into a lot, just with people I know. But like, you owe everybody else just the bare minimum decency that comes from being another confused walking around chimpanzee in clothes. Like, you don't get to treat people differently based on your perceived status in a social situation. Just treat everybody right.
Fair enough. I like how you think. Randal will be leaving us now for a little while. He's going off to Big Choice. I do love Dante. You're a danger to both the dead and the living. That made me laugh.
And Randal takes all of that there's nothing you can say to Randal about Randal that's going to change who he is or how he approaches anything, and that's what makes him such a fun character.
And what's funny was that I watched this, and I'm a big, obviously Kevin Smith man, but I'm also a big Tell 'em Steve Dave fan, and I know Randal is based on Brian Johnson, who's on Comic Book Men, and the more I watch this movie, the more I realize, yeah, this is still Brian Johnson, who doesn't care at all. So I get it. I
got to tell you, this next bit, really, like the next bit of the minute, where I guess what forms like the meat of this minute has really been ringing true for me lately.
And we'll get into that right now. First, we have another word on the screen.
Yeah, well, paradigm is like your paradigm is like your status quo. It's like how things always are.
Well, our trainer is at the counter and getting handed over milk, and according to our Ernie O'Donnell, nice guy, very nice guy. Like I said, it'll be on Friday's show. Very, very cool. And I love the fact that I'll just say Rick, because it was Rick Darris. And Rick actually goes and says that the milk only weighs 7 pounds. Why are you straining to hand it over to me? What? Are you kidding me? What? I hate this kind of asshole. I really do.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point, like, this, a lot of the time in the winter, you know what it's like in the winter. Like, it's hard to get motivated and stay active. And I got, like, good and winter fat this winter. And it's just like, it's to the point where, like, if I bend over to, like, tie my shoes or something, it's always accompanied by, like, you know, Foley work. Like, if I bend over, there's like, ooh, that was a shoelace. That didn't need that sound.
Well, I actually have a very, I work at a hospital at an ER, so I'm actually moving around all day. So I'm not nearly as bad as I would be when I used to be a security guard in the winter, where I just sit around and do nothing for most of my day. So there's a big difference. But no, I get it, 100%.
Yeah. It's important to stay active. It's not like I sit in a chair in a room full of cake all day long. Oh man, I started doing kendo a couple of weeks ago. Japanese sword fighting, right? And I got to my first class. It was about a month ago, and I'm like 20 pounds heavier than I usually am. I've got a big beard, and my hair is all like unkempt. And I'm standing there in like my blue, like kendogi and hakama, like I'm dressed like, like a samurai. And so is everybody else, but they're all like young and Asian and in great shape, and I am this just like 33-year-old overweight bearded Italian guy in the lineup throwing everything off. And I like it's being out of shape is rough. The last thing you want is somebody else to point it out.
They do have some extra stuff in the script that's actually not here. Your muscles are thin and sadly underutilized. Ouch. Ouch. What burns? Come on now.
So there's a complaint that I do have about this movie.
Go ahead.
Which is that there's not a lot of variation in the way the characters speak. Like, everyone kind of sounds like Kevin Smith. And you get a little bit of that in this minute when, Rick comes up and he should be a distinctly different character from Randal and Dante and everyone else in the movie, because he's a different kind of guy. But when he steps up, there are little bits, like when he's talking about, Dante says to him, like, no, that was a sigh. He's like, no, that's not what that was. It was a grunt, an inhalation of air, replenishing muscle or whatever. Like, that's a Kevin Smith line. Like, that's how Kevin Smith talks. That's not how this trainer talks.
I think you know what it is, and I'm just gonna go by fact of the movie. I know Kevin in this movie in particular was very anal about you go by the script, you go by the script, you go by the script. So that could be what you're seeing. Someone just saying you can't go vary off the script. So that might be what you're thinking of. That's possible. You get it a lot in Tarantino movies as well, where like everybody kind of sounds like Quentin Tarantino, unless it's like a very, very distinct character. I was looking over Clerks too, and it's not nearly as bad in that movie as in this one.
Yeah.
So it could be it.
Yeah. And I agree with that too. Like, I think it's a part of it too is Kevin Smith growing as a writer, because this was his first movie.
First movie.
Yeah. And how old was he when he did this? He was in like his 20s, right?
I believe it was 23. I want to say something along those lines.
Yeah, this is a young man. You kind of you grow and sort of polish what you do as you grow, but there is a lot of capturing somebody else's voice, like their speech patterns, is difficult, and it's very hard not to make everyone you write kind of talk like you.
It's true. Even though, especially, we are in Jersey, and I think at this point his whole group of friends is in this movie, so they probably all sound the same anyway.
That's a good point, too. Like, you know that you start talking like the people you spend time with.
Yeah, I'm noticing that with a couple of my friends here in Wisconsin. I start talking like them, and I realize that now. It's like, oh, that could be an issue, Yeah.
But everybody picks up like a kind of shorthand and a sort of cadence that nobody is doing it intentionally. It's just from spending so much time with each other that comes about.
It's true. It's actually a very good point. I never thought about it that way. You're absolutely right. And it has happened throughout this movie where the funny part is, I noticed it throughout this movie that there are some like big words that no human would say. Like there's some things like that only would come out of a writer.
Yeah, he really likes putting his erudition down on the page. Like he wants people to know. Oh, what's that word? Is it it's a dumb big word too. Like when someone who uses big words for the sake of using it, sesquipedalian. I believe that is in fact. Wow, that's. Just the problem is that knowing the word sesquipedalian is like using it is in itself the thing it defines.
That's fun. I didn't even think of that word, but yeah, that's exactly the mentality here. Perfect. Good pull. Very good. I'll give you that one. Very nicely done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So there's in the Clerks cartoon. This is a good little counterpoint here. Like the people that come into the Quick Stop. in the cartoon and the bits that they do in that it's such a vastly different sense of humor from this like nice kind of understated pain in the assy slice of life that is in this scene. And I'm not going.
Well, the funny part about the cartoon is I think it's more slapsticky because it's animated and they can get away with so much more. You could have more fun in an animated world than you do in a real life world. I mean, we're going to be breaking down the animated show over the summer more. And we watched the first episode already, and it really is slapsticky at times, where it's like, okay, this is definitely a cartoon world. This is definitely a moment. I think it's like the first minute in, Dante's running the store, and you have 2,000 people run in. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're done. We're done. That's the bit. We're good now. So, yeah, I think it's because animated worlds are just easier to write for because you can do anything. You really can.
Yeah, you get a little looser with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a joke, I believe it's Beauty and the Beast with Gaston, where they just said, we're just going to draw exactly what's written in here and just have fun with it. It's one of those gags, you know? So, and shouts out to my buddies over at Beauty and the Beastly Minute. I was on their show earlier this year, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was as well. They're really great.
So, all right. So, I do feel Dante here because Dante does not have a lick of fat on his body on this screen. But I love Rick like saying you have no tone either. Well then, thank you again, you asshole.
This kind of plays into what we were saying before. Like there is, the customer is always right is kind of part of like your title dictating behavior, but I think that's really only limited to things that like you need to say. Like, yes, you're the customer, and like your demands are correct when you're being served, but that doesn't mean that you can say whatever the hell you want to anybody. Like, there is kind of a social contract, and just coming in and doing that to whoever is behind the counter is unnecessary.
But there's a difference between being rude and being an asshole. I could deal with rude because, I worked at a casino one time. I worked at a casino for a couple of years. And people could just be rude. I don't mind that because I get it. You're probably in a bad mood. You probably lost a couple $1,000 in the last 2 minutes. I get it. I understand. But don't just come up to me and yell at me because you're just in a pissy mood. That's just uncalled for. I don't like shit like that.
Oh yeah, and if you're working somewhere, you're seen as help, and some people will take that as meaning that you're a servant or that you can be talked out to, and they're like, hey, cram it, just cram it with a fistful of walnuts. Pretty
much, I agree with that. Especially, I'm in housekeeping, so we're kind of considered the lowest rung, even though we're like the most important people in the building. At the same time, it's weird how that works. So,
that's very true.
Yeah, it's a weird one like that. Entering our conversation here would be Heather, who, as I think I may have mentioned in the last minute, I'm not 100% sure, is actually, at the time, Kevin Smith's current girlfriend in the time of this filming of this movie. Oh. So, she makes a cameo in this movie. And she pretty much just comes in, does her thing, looking for a paper, and then she recognizes. I don't think she recognizes him yet, but they do talk about it, and he wants to know, does this guy look like he's out of shape? And I love that. I don't know. I can't really tell from here.
Yeah.
How do you answer that question, though? Seriously. Like, I don't get it.
I don't know. If I were in that situation too, I would immediately take the side of whoever seemed to be being put upon. Like,
yes.
If someone was like, "Doesn't this guy look out of shape to you?" I'd be like, I would be more inclined to take the side of of Dante than this other guy, just because of how that situation was set up to me.
True. Very, very true. Actually, it reminds me of a gag. Do you happen to watch Impractical Jokers?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay. On that show, there's a whole bit they do where they get water thrown into their face, and then they ask, well, did I deserve that? And no matter how ridiculous the explanation is, the customers always seem to agree that you didn't deserve it because you didn't deserve to get water in your face. It feels like they have to side with him because it's so embarrassing. That's what this kind of situation looks like to me. So,
man, just just like 3 weeks ago, those guys came to the bakery.
Oh.